Cinderella is hired to fix the personalities of spoiled rich kids without falling in love with either of them. This is the review for the Korean TV drama series Cinderella and the Four Knights, coming up. Hi guys, this is MC Lorenzo. Before we begin, I will have to warn you that there are going to be heavy spoilers throughout the review. If you don't want the spoilers, go ahead and click on the timestamp on the description box below where I give the rating for Cinderella and the Four Knights. Back in 2016, when I was looking through a lot of dramas in the internet, I found Cinderella and the Four Knights. I haven't really heard anything about it from my friends or other people that actually watch Asian dramas. But what did capture me was the actual Cinderella part, because I grew up, watching the cartoon for Cinderella and the storybook, reading the storybook. The trope of, rags to riches, poor to rich, and falling in love is what stuck throughout me growing up. With that in mind, I came into the Cinderella wanting to get a sense of that. And when I did watch the first episode, what kept me going through all of the episodes and really rooting for the characters in the story was basically Cinderella. Now, Cinderella isn't your basic damsel in distress. Whenever she encounters problems, she faces them head on. She does break down and cry a lot during the series, but after that, she pats herself on the back and stands up and tries to move on and try to solve the issue. Personally, I gravitate more on strong female protagonists, and Cinderella here is one of them. She's strong and self-reliant and doesn't really need a man to overcome situations. Throughout the first episode, we see a lot of the main characters being introduced. We see the knights and Kwon and Hyuk-chan and all of these other characters on their daily lives. The real story starts when Hyun-min actually hires Kwon, or Cinderella, to be her fiancé to attend the wedding of his grandpa. We see Kwon actually dominate Hyun-min and Ji-eun the other night, the second night, and it's a refreshing thing for grandpa to see this, this random girl actually take charge and try to put these men down and just, tame them. When grandpa sees that, he's definitely sparked with curiosity and tries his way to actually investigate Cinderella and then hire her to remold the personalities of these knights, because all of these knights aren't really, they're not good. Now, Hyun-min, at the first parts of the story, we see him date a lot of women, give them a lot of cars, and buy them a lot of things. We see Hyun-min change and be thoughtful, especially with Hyuk-chan. There's a lot of different conflicts with Hyuk-chan and Kwon, our Cinderella, but through time, we see that he's actually a caring guy, sweet, and really thoughtful. Also for me, I think face-wise, he's actually the most handsome one or the cutest one among all four. His advantage in the story is that he's actually more good-looking than the rest of the guys. The second knight is actually Ji-eun. Now, Ji-eun's the rebel, the thug, the bad boy persona of the story. We see him being short-tempered and telling people off all the time, especially Kwon, our Cinderella, and everyone really, he's like really, antisocial and not really friendly. A highlight for Ji-eun is his swimming scene with Kwon. He was basically shirtless, and I think he showed off that he's actually hotter than the rest of the knights. So basically, yeah, that's something to look forward to when you're watching or doing reruns of the series. Now, the third knight is actually So-woo. Out of all the four knights, I think he does not really have much of an issue. regarding personality, because out of all of the four, he's actually very considerate, caring, responsible, and really approachable. Maybe it's because he's a pop star, so he needs to have that image, that persona. But when we get through the storyline, you see that he actually cares more. He's the first one to actually care about Ha-won and not have ulterior motives. The fourth knight is Yeon-sung, or Mr. Lee. Mr. Lee is actually very stoic, he's very single-minded, and he's very, very strict. We see him without much emotion throughout the story, and he's just being, really direct to the point, purposeful, and he doesn't really smile or laugh a lot. Although he does have his moments, especially when he was cooking, he smiled there, and when he got drunk, he was actually very weird. And we get to see that lightheartedness of himself. Some of the people probably watching the series would actually gravitate towards him if you like someone mysterious, someone dark, someone a little bit more secretive. If you're enjoying this video, don't forget to give me a like. Also, who's your favorite among the knights? Let me know in the comments down below. What kept me going throughout the episodes and binge watching were the conflicts around Cinderella. She had issues with her father, she had issues with the stepmother and the stepsister, and money problems, and there's a lot of that interrelated with the story. Also adding to the knights, each of them have their own stories, their backgrounds, and their own goals throughout the story, and kept me actually wanting to watch more. The main conflict of the story is actually between four characters and their love drama rivalry. It's between Ji-eun, Hyun-min, Hye-ji, and our Cinderella Ha-won. Now let's talk about Hye-ji, the secondary character. She's supposed to be the love rival of our Cinderella for vying the attention of Hyun-min and Ji-won. When I first saw Hye-ji on the first episode, I was like, okay, she's a fun character. But throughout the episodes, I slowly started skipping it. It's not that she doesn't bring a lot of conflict or a lot of, change in the story, but her acting or character, I'm not really sure what it is, but it just fell a bit short. I don't know, I didn't connect to her as a villain or a protagonist or a secondary character like I wanted to connect with. She was just bland throughout the story. She was always sad. She kind of reminds me of Sadness from Inside Out, I believe, the blue girl. It just feels like that from start to finish, except for the first episode. Since we're talking about secondary characters, let's talk about stepmom and stepsister. Now, they do give Cinderella a hard time, but what I think that I really liked about the two of them is that they're the icebreakers of the episodes. Now, we see a lot of the main characters, having their own inner turmoil, having love issues, and it's really, really dramatic. But then when we see these two characters, they kind of break the ice in the sense that they bring comedy and fun into the story. Although what they do is still integrated deeply within the plot lines, we see them, in a very light comedic manner. And I like that about them. Instead of me hating them, I actually kind of, rooted for them in a small sense of way. I particularly like the stepsister. She's actually really pretty, but I just don't like her because her personality is petty. And I get that. That's what the stepsister is. But I kind of wish throughout the story, she got a love story out of it. Not with the knights, maybe another, a secondary character, another man comes in and maybe swoops her off her feet. That kind of story. I wish she had more storylines. Later down the episodes, we see Madame Ji try to take over the company from Grandpa. At that point, the story tells us that the villain of the story is Madame Ji. But for me, I think the real villain is actually the grandpa. Although he started as, as a godmother, buying or hiring Ha-won at the start and then buying her a lot of things that she needed throughout the story, like the crematorium fees. she actually tries to manipulate each of the characters to do his bidding. So, I don't know. I feel like the rest of it, the plot, I think the real villain of the story is Grandpa. The ending is actually satisfactory, where we see all the characters resolve their issues. Love triangles and love issues actually do sort itself out. What I didn't like about the ending was So-woo. His character didn't have much development other than being heartbroken. I don't think they didn't really put much into the story regarding his character. Also, I kind of wish the villains, Madame Ji and the grandpa, didn't really get a happy ending. So, I don't know. But they did end up together again. So I'm really, I don't know. I'm on the fence about it. I mean, they had their happy ending, but the villains got together, and that's just fine because, you know, they're villains. They deserve each other. But then again, I kind of wish they were miserable. I give Cinderella a 5 out of 5 rating. It's a new take on the Cinderella story, where the Cinderella is actually very positive. She's trying a lot and she makes conscious choices. The story has a good pacing and there's conflicts within each episodes, so you actually try to watch them and try to binge watch the whole thing because it keeps you glued. What fell short for me was actually the character Hyuk-ji. We see her moping around from the start to finish, and it's actually kind of off-putting. I also don't like the flashbacks in the story. There are tons of flashback throughout the episodes where you literally flash back into a scene just a couple of minutes before. Also, there are too many spins and wall pins and all of these moments that's supposed to be romantic, but I just didn't feel like it. It was a little bit overdone. Granted, I did like the reverse wall pin that Ha-won did to Ji-eun, but the rest of them, it's kind of a little bit too much. She keeps on twirling around and being pinned to the wall. I don't get it. But even with all the cons, it didn't really outweigh the pros of the story. The characters are lovable, the plots really stuck through, and I really recommend it for a binge watching session, maybe on the weekend or whenever you're free. If you found this review helpful and enjoyable, don't forget to give me a like. And if you want to see more of these reviews, Asian drama reviews and films, go ahead and click on the subscribe button down below. And yeah, that's it.